Hello, everyone. Welcome to the EV Owners Lounge, episode 3. We're joined today by some very special guests, as always, and we will be talking about salary sacrifice. So, before we start, I want to encourage everyone to ask questions. Feel free to consult our experts we have on today, and hopefully, we can get some value out of the call for everyone to learn more about salary sacrifice, both as an employee and as a business. So, on the call today, we have Mark Miller and Sham Chowdhury from Mobile Array EV, which is a platform that allows hosts to connect their home and business chargers to EV drivers as a destination charger. And we have Paul Thorley from Vehicle Consulting Solent, designed to help anyone looking to go into salary sacrifice and switch to electric cars, offering advice in all aspects of those areas. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Afternoon.
So let's jump straight in. What makes salary sacrifice for electric vehicles attractive options for both the employee and the business? So we start with Paul.
Well, let Paul introduce himself because he's got a bit of a story to tell first, and but not as long as you did it the other day.
No, I do talk a bit. So yeah, I'm Paul, and my background is in the new car industry for nearly 30 years. Done everything. Ran my own business, my own brokerage, where I was supplying every type of vehicle on every type of funding platform to every type of customer. So it was personal or business lease, and it'd be a diesel, a petrol, a hybrid car, etc. 2018, I had a bit of a moment, and I kind of fell in love with the Jaguar I-Pace, to be honest, and I realised actually there was a massive change coming. So I actually packaged up, and we actually sold our business, my wife and I, moving away from that to completely focus on the electrification of transport, really, particularly with cars and vans. And that's where I am here today. So 2018, I wrote a program called the Green Car Leasing Scheme, and which is effectively what salary sacrifice is today. And this is what I do, and I absolutely love doing it and helping people do this.
Great. So I asked this question of you before, Paul, but I think it's worth hearing for others. So if I'm obviously there's a lot of depreciation in EVs right now, and the best way of getting an EV is either a second-hand one or lease, or through a fleet management route of some sort, right? PCP might be also a way of avoiding you paying for that depreciation and having somebody else pay for it. But if I was because I think a lot of sales are going through fleet rather than direct, sales. And how much of a role do you think salary sacrifice plays with that? And how does a small business like Manta Ray or Mobile Array EV go about doing salary sacrifice? Because I fancy a new EV.
Yeah, you said it's a good question. So first of all, let's talk on depreciation. Depreciation on new cars has been around ever since new cars were first made, and there's lots of reasons for that. What's been really highlighted on depreciation recently is on electric vehicles, and what happened, what pandemic and then the Ukraine invasion was, supply of vehicles was so limited, where the traditional fleet discounts that we were getting on any car went from anything what it is today to back to list price. And in fact, some manufacturers were charging, or some dealerships were charging above list price for some of the new electric vehicles. So there's not a vehicle you can go and buy today, mainstream, that you would pay list price for and not expect to lose money. There's VAT for starters. So there is that, and it's kind of been also bombarded onto an EV that they do lose a lot of money. But the fact is, brand new cars and vans do lose money, and the way around that has been for a long time. So I was in the personal contract hire boom, really, from 2012 to 2018, and we saw the significant rise of contract hire as opposed to contract purchase, and that was because it's a depreciating asset. So people started realizing, actually, I don't have to save for a deposit. I don't have to save for 20, 30, 40,000 pounds for a car. and I can actually get a car today and put a small deposit down and pay a monthly payment and then hand it back. And a lot of people took that route, and that's simply going into the electrification now, albeit on a different way. So what you said there, Mark, salary sacrifice for a small business. One of the things that we wanted to do as a business is look at what the market had at the time, and there's 4, 5, 6 very, very highly funded, high corporate players in this marketplace, which are household names. But what we soon realised is when we were doing the market research is there's nothing really for the 1 to 5 or the 5 to 10 employees. So we went to we basically went to look at the marketplace and see what do those big companies do, what do they do, and what can we offer to the likes of you, Mark, Alex, and Sham today. What could we offer you as well? And we wanted to bring all them elements on board to make a truly adaptable product for the likes of yourselves and the smaller business to take on. So that's basically what we do. So there is a product out there for you, Mark. There is a product out there that's scalable, where you can take 1 car or 1,000 cars and then take that journey as your business grows. So my goal, to me, a salary sacrifice isn't a way of tax avoidance. It isn't a way of just getting a cheap Tesla or a cheap Taycan. It's a way where what we're looking to do is to help as many people on the electrification journey as possible. That's one of my values, and that's why I stepped away from the normal broker world of just supplying any car, just to doing this. Because when we deliver an electric car to a driver, especially for the first time, we're not just delivering a car that's got a battery in it. We're delivering part of a change, and this is a generational change where it's my first electric car was 2012. It did 50 miles of range with a 3-pin plug, which is a Citroen C0. And where we are today has seen a monumental change in technology and development, and that's not going away. That's not going to disappear. In fact, it's the absolute opposite. So we're delivering change as well as a car. So that really hits with our values. And there's a lot of people with the who have that kind of wish and wants and the values themselves, and this product helps them do that. And we can talk about how it does if you want to, if we've got time today. But comparing it to a PCP and a PCH, it's a similar thing where it costs the individual money to basically rent a car from a business. So that's the kind
just
of
looking at
fundamental.
Louise's question, Paul. She's basically, is there a particular sector that that it's more successful for than others? Because I was about to ask you. Okay, so let's say I'm a contractor, right? And there's lots of contractors out there, right? So that have their own businesses, and I wanted to get an electric van or just a company car. And you're saying there's a product out there for us, but what is it? Is there different sectors that are better at this, or is it as you say, there are products for large businesses, and as you say, there are also products for small businesses. But is there a difference?
Great question, Louise. And there are sectors which it's been really good for, and those what struggle. So first and foremost, the HMRC guidelines for salary sacrifice is the employee has to be PAYE, and after the deduction of the salary, the take home pay still has to be above the national minimum wage, which obviously it keeps going up as well. So that's the first and foremost. So it doesn't fit for a self-employed basis. If you are a director that gets paid with a small salary and dividend like myself, it doesn't work for myself. But if you are a PAYE director and you're taking what I call a real salary, and you're paying yourself that, it absolutely works for that. In terms of industries, I've got I think 51. I manage 51 businesses. The vast majority of them are in engineering sector, and actually the construction sector as well, because they have a lot of people on the road that need a car for their business. And whereas 10, 12 years ago, they may have provided them with a company car in their package.
Yeah.
The tax advantages of company cars, as well documented, have disappeared. However, they were then paying car allowance. And then people were basically taking their car allowance and taking a personal contract hire or a personal contract purchase. What we've found is with these driving, these companies and tech companies as well, actually, they're again another big marketplace for us. But these companies, instead of just paying a car allowance, they're putting a scheme in place so their employee can choose to either take the car allowance or use that car allowance towards an electric vehicle. And it's quite amazing how many people move once they've been given that option. And going back to the values and what people really want.
Paul, just a question regarding salary sacrifice scheme. During the scheme's active, and you're a valid, applicant for applying for it, do you actually own the car itself physically, or not? It's at the end, it's decided who's the owner, if that makes sense. Owner meaning you can buy it back or not, just for the benefit of a myth-busting sort of understanding, really.
Yeah. So no, there's no scope to buy the vehicle back. So effectively, what's happening is the employer is taking out effectively a business contract hire to hire that vehicle. There is then an internal contract between employer and employee for the employee to sacrifice the full amount for that payment from their gross salary. There's a sweet spot of around about 3 years where the vast majority of contracts we write are 3 years. And after that 3 years' time, the vehicle simply goes back to the funder. Now, I'm fully expecting that to slightly change in the next probably 18 months, again, as the product develops. And I believe that the product will develop to a point where you could possibly then release that car that you've already got for another year, 2 years. So effectively bringing it back into your family as a used car agreement, but on the same kind of principle. That's actually happening now. We've actually started underwriting that, but I can see it being a bit more of an option where that's more people do that. However, people do like new things. We all do. Look how we're chatting today. We wouldn't have done this 5 years ago. Well, I certainly wouldn't. So people like innovation. They like new things. Yeah. And my EV journey, my electric car journey has been a long one, and I've gone through all those pain points where people think that even today, getting an electric car will take that in. That technology has changed, not in terms of what cars are available, but also how far they can go, how quickly they can charge, and all the technology that goes into what the cars can actually do. It's quite astonishing. So people will always want to, it's like the iPhone, your iPad, your technology, your IT. It's an ever developing product. That then leads a pool of vehicle, the pools of vehicles which then populate the used car supermarkets, the used car forecourts, where people who don't want to do this or can't would then look to buying a used car or financing through a PCP or a hire purchase, or however they choose to buy the vehicle. And that pool of vehicles, for me, is really exciting, where with respect, you used to go to a car supermarket or a car forecourt and there was rows and rows of the same car. You could name 5 straight away. There was a Nissan Qashqai, there'd be a Ford Focus, there'd be a Vauxhall Astra, there'd be a Ford Fiesta, etc., etc. We're going to see Tesla Model 3, we're going to see Polestar Model 2, we're going to see all those other things, and the quirky side as well. So yes, it's an ever-growing product and an ever-growing technology developing.
So I think Marvin is asking if you can get salary sacrificed on used EVs.
Hi, Marvin. We do have a very small selection of used EVs. As I think I just touched on, actually, a bit prematurely there, we are just about to roll that out in terms of a lot more availability. And these are vehicles that have come back off lease. So we know where they've been. They know they've been looked after. They've been fully maintained by the manufacturer. So we know where they've come to. But for ourselves, it's in the early stages because we want to get it right. We want to make sure that what you're getting and what the vehicle is. So we're currently going down that thing, and we are trialing it with 1 or 2 clients at the moment to do that. But that fills a gap for sure, and it also reutilizes the car. But yes, Marvin, we probably have a very small handful of vehicles that we could do today, but that will become more mainstream in the next 6, 12, 18 months as this product just literally grows and grows in popularity.
Yeah, I mean, I do know that what I sometimes get accused of is that a lot of the used EVs are ex-fleet and haven't been treated well.
Well, yeah. So I mean, but respect, most 3-4 year old cars on a used car department now are ex-fleet cars. They're ex-lease cars, which have come in because it's been a traditional way of the leasing companies disposing of ex-lease vehicles. But actually, most of them are they are fully maintained with full history. So they're on a maintenance contract. So actually, we believe they are much better looked after than, dare I say, a private car that's possibly been serviced outside of the manufacturer's scope or outside of the manufacturer's.
I think there's a perception sometimes that people that rent cars don't treat them particularly well. So
I think that's right to say. Which you think about car rental as car hire. When you hire a car, and do you know what? That will happen in some cases for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because I went for a university reunion last weekend, and I was looking to hire a car, and I didn't want to drive to a major city because I'm in the middle of nowhere, and to get an EV, and so I opted for something local, which meant I rented a burner. But as it turned out, even though it wasn't advertised, they did actually have an electric car that was available.
Okay.
And what I found with these electric cars is that for hiring them, it's actually cheaper than hiring an ICE car for some reason. I don't know why. Enterprise, Hertz, they all offer them at cheaper rates than the burners, which
sometimes I actually live on the Isle of Wight, so I have to pay for a ferry to take my car across, which isn't good value for money. So sometimes I leave my car here and go and hire a Polestar from Hertz as well. It's a colleague told me about that, but yeah, it's a simple thing. I can't answer that, so I don't know why that would be. Maybe it's just more of an encouragement to change.
Yeah, but I also hired a Polestar a while back from Hertz, and the whole lot is full of EVs, but they keep saying that it's not popular. It's not something that people want to rent out. So anyway, going back to salary sacrifice for a second, and maybe Sham, you have a question. I don't know.
Yeah, no. In terms of salary sacrifice, does each employer have a different terms and conditions for their scheme, or is it very similar and doesn't matter which provider you go to, it's going to be the same framework, but there is some variation? That's something I'm not familiar with. It'd be good for the audience to understand if there is.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I can't speak for all of the providers. What we do is offer a bespoke product. So we do what we call an employer's consideration assessment or consultation, because let's imagine we have 1,000 employees within a business. It's fair to say all 1,000 employees have different circumstances, they have different needs, they have different wants. So the framework is roughly the same, where the business has taken a contract hire agreement and there's an internal agreement for the employee taking the gross sacrifice. But what goes then around there is a different wraparound, so you can have as much or as little as you want to do. So the ideal that we portray is, and we try and do as soon as possible, is to make it so it's as touch free friendly for the senior management team in that business as possible, because that's what we do as experts in this. This is our profession. This is what we do. So we provide anything from the car and the fully maintained a fully maintained contract with breakdown cover, with road tax included, with full maintenance, with tyres, including punctures. We can then add car insurance as well into that. But again, that's on an individual basis. So again, we might have 1,000 employees, of which 300 may have never had car insurance before, and 300 may have, full no claims bonus that they can get a more competitive quote themselves. So again, that's why the adaptability is there. We then have the thing where actually some drivers won't have a drive at home, so they don't need a charge point putting in as well. We then fall into risk. So anything in life, anything we do in business, as we all know, has some element of risk to it, and it's about what your appetite to risk is. So that forms from, and one of the biggest questions we get asked is probably the biggest is, what happens if an employee leaves throughout the contract? And it's an absolute fair comment, and because going back to the ethos of, we want this to be as popular as possible, to get as many people in electric vehicles as cheaply as possible, to do so. But it's also got to be as easy as it possibly can be for, and sit right with the company. They may have a board of directors, they may have other management teams to deal with. So there's multiple options for that in terms of early termination protection, and we can deal with that with a good leaver and a bad leaver. A good leaver is one where an employee is resigned from a business and they have a vehicle, or a bad employee is one where you've made redundant or dismissed, and there is a cover for each of those elements as well, whereby in theory, if we had let's say Sham, you was employed, and you had a Polestar 2, and you'd had it for 15-16 months, and you've been offered a better job somewhere else, and that means handing your car back. So first thing we can do there, as part of what we do on the consultation, Sham, is help you take that car with you if you want to your next employer. We can do that, and if that's not possible, we can then arrange for the vehicle to be taken back, and then the contract null and voided, because we've got this wraparound protection in there. So that's what we can do there. There's also another element that the employer has to decide on, and that is on the gross salary deduction that the employee is making, that then leaves a national insurance saving for the employer, and the employer can then choose to give that saving back to the employer as well, which further lowers their net payment for their car, which we start that as a default position, because again, going back to the ethos of making electric vehicles as accessible and as affordable as possible for as many people as possible, this fits into our values in terms of implementing that. So it's not a click and buy. It's certainly not nothing like that where people literally click and buy a vehicle. There's lots of things to consider to make sure it's right, because we're talking about a lot of money. An electric vehicle is anything from 20 to £150,000. So that value can soon add up. So it's important to get it right and consult properly and make sure we've gone through all those decisions to make sure everything's as we want it. So a long answer to your question there, and I hope that was okay. So
we've got a question from the audience.
There's one from Ezrin. You have to keep it short, Paul.
Sorry.
No. He's asking for you to use the simplest language, please. So he's basically asking for, I don't know if you can see it, small and medium business, why should I consider salary sacrifice?
Cool. I'll answer that in 60 seconds. Hi, Ezrin. Thanks for the question. So as a small employer myself, I have a small team that I employ. We want to make those employees as happy as possible and make them as valued as possible. By offering a salary sacrifice scheme on an electric vehicle, it enables that employee to get an electric vehicle as affordable way as possible, whereas they may not be able to do so without it. It's completely cost neutral to your business, so it doesn't cost you anything. It can eliminate risk from the employee leaving during times, which we just touched upon there. And it also then goes back to the values people have of value-driven consumption, and actually it shows that actually you care about your employee, you care about your local environmental credentials, and you want to be seen to be a progressive, future-thinking business. So that basically, in my opinion, is in 60 seconds there, Ezrin, why you should offer that. Just on that, sorry, Mark. If you had 100 employees, it doesn't mean 100 employees are going to have an electric car. It means one can. But this, I think 1 in 5 people on a questionnaire would say they'd like an electric vehicle, but maybe can't afford one. So hopefully that as quick as I could there.
But doesn't the business also benefit financially to some extent by this being in terms of national insurance or something?
Yeah, it can do. I was just touched on there on my long answer. So the national insurance, there is a saving on the gross salary deduction, and an employer can choose to keep that if they wish to, or give it back to the employee, which makes it even more affordable for the employee to take. So we always go by the standard of cost neutral to the business. So they pass that saving back onto the employee. The employee gets a really good priced new electric car. We're some of the vehicles that we have are under £200 a month. So it's just a way of where we can actually help people who can't necessarily afford an electric vehicle. Sorry, Ezrin, one last thing as well. The employee doesn't use their own credit facility for this as well. So there's no deposit to raise, and they don't have to use their own credit facility because it's basically going through the business. So there we go.
Yeah, I think you've answered his other part of the question, which is what's in it. Why should employees look for employers that are offering it? I think you explained it both.
So yeah.
And the desire. Marv is asking a question about is motorbikes or motorcycles, same thing, I think, covered by salary sacrifice.
I hope so. Obviously, the cycle to work scheme was well documented and been a successful thing. That is an approved salary sacrifice, and it still is, and it has been for a long time. It would be great for them to bring this out on there, because it would make so much sense about decarbonising our transport network and our local areas. So I think the current government are very proactive in terms of their environmental credentials. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens.
But do you know if they're covered now or not?
No, they're not now. No, they're not covered now. Because I actually got a supplier with electric motorcycles, but it can't be done.
I have to say, electric motorcycles scares me.
Just a question on that, just a closing, if may, because of time. But electric vehicles that are not classified as cars but can be used in inner city, very congested areas, can they still be part of that scheme?
Like quad cycles.
Yeah, but they're like that one we saw on the EV Live, very similar. They're not considered as cars, but they're vehicles.
They're quad cycles. Yeah.
So I can only answer based on what I know there. So, but I will find that out. But so the Citroen Ami or Ami, however you want to pronounce it, is a quadricycle, and that's covered under the scheme. So that is possibly the case. It's just not in my marketplace. But if you want me to, I can find the exact answer for you. But that would be great. So there's all sorts of this weird and wonderful little vehicles, delivery vehicles popping up. To do that. We went to the EV show at the London XL last year, and there was all sorts of really amazing little things there. So there's some great people with some great ideas.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but that's a great information. Thank you for that.
I had a thought about what you were saying earlier, Paul, and I'm in a similar boat to you. Minimum pay and dividends is how I get paid.
Yeah.
And you said you still have to, after the salary sacrifice, you still need to be able to pay get your minimum wage.
Yeah.
So what if I took it from 12,500 to, I don't know, 15,000, and and the salary sacrifice payment for a new EV would still be above the 12K.
Yeah. So
minimum pay.
the 12. I don't think the 12K is the minimum pay, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm not an accountant, so I can't really go there. But I just know it's a PAYE, so you have to be on PAYE, and say the deduction has to stay it's a minimum of minimum wage. So
12,875 or something is the minimum wage, just so you know.
All right, part time. So that's an accountant's question, Mark. Unfortunately, I can only go by what HMRC give us.
I'm just because you said that you could do it, but you have to be, the PAYE has to meet the minimum wage.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if, with a smart accountant, whether even with the way that we do pay ourselves right now, Paul, whether that, and I'm sure there's plenty of other people out there, that pay themselves in the same way as we do, that you could still take advantage of this somehow. But,
yeah, if you can't, obviously you can take an electric vehicle as a company car now. The benefit in kind is only 2% at the moment, which rises to 3% in April 2025. So it's a great way for a director or an owner or a shareholder of a business to access that and take a car instead of taking their personal allowance and paying tax on their personal allowance, which again there's another marketplace for in the business contract hire side of the product as well. So there is an affordable solution there as well, because when you think about if you're paying £500 a month for a petrol car personally, and you're taking, that's after your dividend or your salary, that £500 costing you nearly £900 a month to take out the business. Whereas you can get a good car for £900 a month.
Cool. I think we're near the end of the time, so I don't know if there was anything anybody wanted to wrap up with. Paul obviously knows the stuff. Go talk to Vehicle Consulting Solent. I think you do it nationally, right? Even though you're down in the
the Solent thing. So I went back in 2018 when we sold the business. We wanted to move to the Isle of Wight with our family. It's a place we love, and the work lifestyle balance here is it's an amazing place to live. So it enables me to be the best of me and help as many people as want me to help them, really. So that's where it comes from.
Yeah, and Queen Victoria liked it there too. So.
She's got a lovely house here still. Yeah.
Anything else, last? Alex, anything?
I was going to ask very quickly if you can do a 30-60 second answer to this, Paul, but how much of a process is it to have an employer sign up to the salary sacrifice scheme? What kind of admin do they have involved, and how does it work?
Sure. Great question. It's incredibly easy. There's a little bit of a setup to start with. We go through the decisions about what's important, what the business owners want to include and not what to include. We then have to set up a finance agreement in terms with the finance company. We can then we will then do an individual consultation with the employee to make sure that they know what it is and find out exactly what car they're on, because we need to make sure we deliver the right car to the right person, and make sure that's needs. There's no point in delivering a 4-seater Porsche Taycan to somebody who's got 2 dogs and 3 children, for example. So, but yeah, it's like for us, it's simple because it's what we do every day. But once it's set up, it's incredibly painless.
Perfect. That's a great way to wrap up. So thanks everyone.
Yeah.
For
Thanks very much for having me. It was amazing. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Great day. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.